Donald Trump is asking Congress for a whopping $850 billion stimulus package, the majority of which would go toward businesses as opposed to straight in the hands of the American people, who clearly are frustrated by what the coronavirus and this worldwide pandemic is doing to their personal finances. So let me give you some of the details, and then we'll hear from our Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and what their priorities are. So according to the Washington Post, White House officials are leaning hard into the idea of tax cuts and industry assistance, while Democrats have said their proposals are focused more on helping workers, healthcare providers, schools, and senior citizens. Now, I do want to add a caveat to this, though. The legislation coming out of the House, as we spoke about yesterday, was watered down by the time Republicans got their hands on it. And so really the stimulus and the paid time off that Democrats were hoping to give to most workers was dwindled down to a small portion of US workers. And there was a loophole for companies that have 500 employees or more, meaning these massive corporations, the companies that can afford to give their employees paid sick leave are exempt from that legislation. Now, Steven Mnuchin met with Senate Republicans today to discuss the stimulus package. Just to give you an idea of where we're at today versus where we were back in 2008. In 2008, Congress passed $700 billion in a stimulus package, and it was called the Troubled Asset Relief Program, to try to rescue the financial system. Now, keep in mind, there were no tax cuts that went along with it. What the Trump administration has been eyeing is tax cuts. But before I give you more details on what they're trying to do, let's go to a quick clip of Steve Mnuchin talking about really what his top priority seems to be in this whole situation.
This is worse than 9/11. For the airline industry, this is, they are almost ground to a halt. The president wants to make sure that although we don't want people to travel unless it's critical, we want to maintain for critical travel the right to have domestic travel.
$60 billion, is that enough?
I'm not going to comment on the specifics. I will tell you, we're very focused. There's a lot of workers. This is strategically important to us, and we'll be working with Congress on this.
The airline industry will be in good shape.
So they're concerned about the airline industry because clearly a bunch of flights have been halted. People haven't been traveling for good reason. And so they're worried about these poor airlines that have been price gouging us for years now. They received giant tax cuts under the Trump tax cut plan. And what did they do? Did they reinvest that money into their companies? Did they maybe pass off some of those profits to their workers? Did they prepare for a rainy day or what we're experiencing right now? No, they did the exact opposite. As the BBC reports, data revealed by Bloomberg shows major airlines, including United and American Airlines, used an average 96% of their spare cash buying back their own shares. American Airlines led the pack, buying back more than $12.5 billion of its own shares from 2010 to 2019. United Airlines used 80% of its spare cash buying back its shares. I only bring that up because we shouldn't even be having a discussion about bailing out airline companies, period, right? Like, they've been incredibly profitable. They've had spare cash and they've only used it to further enrich themselves. Every American gets told by right-wingers in this country, right-wing politicians, well, you should have 3 to 6 months of money stored away somewhere for a situation like this. And if you don't, that's on you. You should have been saving. But most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now. Right. So why don't we use that same logic for profitable companies like these airline companies?
Especially when you look at who is supposed to be buying tickets on airplanes. Like, people are supposed to be buying tickets on airplanes. So if we can't afford to make rent, chances are we're not gonna afford a vacation anytime soon. I mean, I don't know how many people can even afford vacation as is, but like, I think that's the whole fallacy of our economy. And what's interesting about what's going on right now is that it's exposing every little crack in the bizarre economic logic that we have in this country, right? Which is that everything trickles down, that if you help the people at the top, somehow it'll all reach the people at the bottom. And yet we are simultaneously based on consumerism. Oh, we're just gonna buy. And so it's like, well, yeah, then make things a little bit less stressful on consumers. I mean, we can't even get toilet paper right now. Like, we can't even get a hand sanitizer.
The frustrating thing is that it does seem like the airline industry specifically is one of those industries that is too big to fail, in the sense that you need, like, a country needs to have the ability to travel. You need airplanes to go back and forth for an economy to work when we get out of this. So you do need some form of an airline industry. So it's like they can hold a gun to the government's head and be like, give us the money or we'll go under. And what you're just not going to have any airplanes going to go, coming out of LAX to JFK and all that stuff. So you do need an airline industry, but there is no serious discussion over like what a real proposal would be, which I think, frankly, it needs to be considered, which is to nationalize the airline industry, or at least have a public airline, like a lot of other countries have. Most other countries have a public airline, which is owned by the government, which is, it works in the interest of its citizens, right? It creates routes that maybe aren't as profitable as other routes, but are needed in order to, have the flow of commerce. Instead of these stock buybacks, which, frankly, are just used to enrich shareholders and executives who are paid by, often by stock options. If their stock price goes up, then they get paid more. So they're incentivized to juice the stock price by doing these stock prices instead of investing in better airplanes, better service, higher wages,
better service,
all those
American
good things.
Airlines, no interest. And by the way, I mean, you mentioned how other countries do things with their airline companies. There are also specific like regulations and protections for consumers. So for instance, I remember when one of my flights was delayed when I had to travel, actually last year when I traveled to Munich for the security conference. Just because I was delayed a few hours, I was given like money to eat something when I was at the airport.
Nice.
And then they're like, okay, fill out these forms and you'll be compensated for the delay. And I was
Did you have to buy like airport clothing as well? Just like a big T-shirt that was like Munich.
No.
Because that'd be cute.
No, but like the fact that they have protections for people. So if you're stuck in an airport, you get a meal and you also get some type of reimbursement if you've been delayed. But you're right, in the United States, there are none of those protections. In fact, they oversell each flight and people get kicked off if everybody shows up for that flight. But let me give you more details on what's going on currently with Congress and what the government is trying to do allegedly to help average Americans. So Democrats are coming at this from a little bit of a different approach. Now, I'm not a huge fan of some of these corporate Democrats, but it appears that rather than giving massive tax cuts to companies, they're focusing more on average Americans, average workers who are also really suffering from what's happening. So Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is expected to outline his $750 proposal and contrast it with the White House's approach. Schumer's offering would expand unemployment insurance, provide money for schools, public transportation, expand Medicaid funding, expand more investments in healthcare, provide loan assistance, and halt evictions and foreclosures, which, by the way, some states have taken matters in their own hands and they've decided that they will not collect any debts just in order to keep people, feeling a little less stressed out in this situation. But I like that Schumer wants to come at it from this approach, but it's one thing to say you want to do these things, it's another thing to actually fight for them. And when you read what happened in the House with Nancy Pelosi's legislation, I mean, you have a doofus like Louis Gohmert holding her back from accomplishing something that would be incredibly popular with the American public. So fight for it.
Yeah. Well, and the real frustrating thing is that Nancy Pelosi has a majority in the House. So she could, in theory, write whatever bill she wants and pass it, like if she controls her caucus, right? And it seems very obvious that the play should be, if they were a real opposition party, to just pass the best possible bill, like regardless of the political ramifications with the Republicans, and then dare the Republicans to pass it because they're desperate in an election year to not tank the economy, right? So they need the stimulus package more than anyone else. Like if they're running for re-election right now, the president's running for re-election, and if the economy collapses from now until then, he will lose. Like he will lose against any corpse they put up there.
Right.
So it's all in her hands to just pass the best possible version. Don't worry about like, oh, but if we do this, they might say no, because the thing that Democrats always do, like it's crazy. Like in Denmark, they passed a stimulus package where the state pays 75% of workers' wages while employers pay 25%. Workers give up 5 days of paid holiday in exchange for no layoffs during the lockdown.
Yeah.
0 layoffs.
Wow.
That is the kind of stimulus that would be needed. Like the House could pass something like that, no problem. They have the majority. And then you could just hand it over to the Republicans and be like, pass this or nothing, or you tank the economy and you lose everything, because that's what will happen.
I think strategically you're absolutely right. There's no reason not to do that. You're right that it is, once again, whenever Democrats sort of seemingly have the upper hand because reality ends up giving it to them, they usually squander it. But what you just mentioned with, was it Denmark?
Denmark.
Saying no layoffs. I mean, that's the rub for me with how we approach things like economic bailouts in this country, is that we never actually talk about industry. We're never actually putting pressure on companies like Amazon or on the restaurant industry to have stronger worker protections or not have a moratorium on layoffs, right? Or a moratorium on debt collection or whatever it is. Like and that's sort of why I'm frustrated with ultimately a lot of these stimulus packages. That's still taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's still coming out of like our money, right?
Exactly.
Whereas if you say a moratorium and on layoffs, like that's on industry, that's on, or if you say right now, McDonald's workers, Chipotle workers, same thing, I know. Applebee's, maybe it's the same thing. It's all really the same.
Probably.
But like, I didn't know they didn't have paid sick leave. Like, it's taken a pandemic for us to realize that like, maybe that's why Chipotle, makes us go to the bathroom as frequently as we have to. So, but like this is, and yet, but there's no way that the US Congress is like, will do anything that compromises or minimally regulates the private sector.
Right, you're exactly right. And every time our lawmakers, both Democrats and Republicans, fearmonger about socialism, right? Just keep in mind that what is being proposed right now by the Trump administration is socialism for corporations, right, that are struggling. So we have the same thing here that they have in Denmark. It's just flipped, right? We don't care about protecting the workers. It's all about taking taxpayer money to help bail out companies that have done very little in investing in US workers, right? That's what those tax cuts were supposed to be, right? You're supposed to increase the wages of your employees, according to Trump. You're supposed to reinvest in your company. All they did was buy shares of their own stock.
I mean, if there could be a guarantee that the airlines would make sure that none of its employees, their employees, would face a layoff, or that if they did have to, bench them, that they would get paid, right? Like, that'd be fine. But we never have any follow through as the citizens. Like, where's our follow through? I think some of the economic stimulus money in 2008 was good. It went to good stuff, and a lot of it didn't, right? So, this is something that we don't really we don't check up on.
I think, I could talk about that 2008 crisis all day. We are currently experiencing a housing crisis because the banks, which got bailed out, now own all of those properties, right? And they are renting them, right? That's what they did. And there's a shortage of housing partly because of that. And it's like they not only got bailed out, but they continue to screw us by manipulating the housing market the way that they have.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.